When a mafia boss goes down, the world thinks it's over. But behind every fallen king, there's a queen who knows how to keep the empire alive. Meet Emma Ispuro, wife of the world's most powerful drug lord El Chapo. And if you think she's locked up just like her husband, wait until we talk about her. And Rosario Cardoza, El Mayo's wife? Well, she rules the cartel world from the shadows, where no one ever sees her. These are the wives of the deadliest mafia bosses who keep calling the shots. Emma Coronel Espuro. It's no surprise that Emma Espuro's name comes up first. The young girl who dreamed of wearing a beauty queen's crown never imagined she would become the wife of the world's most powerful drug lord. But life has a way of pulling people into places they never planned to be. Emma Coronel Espuro met Joaquin El Chapo Guzman when she was just 17. He was already a legend, feared, respected, and untouchable. At 18, she became his wife. Some say it was love, others say it was power. Either way, she stepped into a world of danger the moment she said, "I do." For years, she lived in luxury, moving between mansions, always protected, always guarded. She played the role of a devoted wife and the caring mother of their twin daughters. But Emma was more than just a wife. She was trusted. She knew the secret meetings, the safe houses, the whispered plans. And in 2015, when El Chapo escaped from a Mexican prison through an underground tunnel, many believed she was the woman who made it happen. But power never lasts forever. In 2021, Emma was arrested. The gorgeous wife of the cartel boss was suddenly wearing prison clothes, sitting in a courtroom, facing the weight of her choices. The world watched, waiting to see if she would betray the man who gave her everything. She didn't. Instead, she stayed silent, took a plea deal, and spent less than 3 years in prison. Now she's free, but not really. She lives under watch, her every move monitored. But she's back in the spotlight, posting pictures, making public appearances, looking as elegant as ever. Some say she's done with the cartel life. Others believe she's just playing a new game. Whatever the truth is, one thing is certain. Emma Coronel Espuro is not a woman who disappears. Emma's story is shocking, but she's not the only woman tied to cartel power. The next one has been making waves in the business world, while keeping one foot in the shadows. Alejandrina Maria Salazar Hernandez. You probably already know her as El Chapo's first wife, but this woman never liked attention. While others in the cartel world chased fame and power, she stayed in the background. But in a world where silence is rare, she became one of the most powerful women without saying a word. Alejandrina was born into cartel life. Her family already had ties to drug trafficking long before she met Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. When she married him in the late 1970s, he was still building his empire. He wasn't the legend he would later become, but he had ambition, and she knew it. She stood by him, raising his children, watching as he grew into the most feared drug lord in the world. Unlike the women who came after her, Alejandrina never craved luxury in the open. There were no flashy cars, no gold-covered mansions, no social media pictures showing off wealth. But that didn't mean she wasn't important. She handled things quietly: businesses, properties, money that needed to be cleaned. The authorities suspected she was involved in cartel finances, but they could never touch her. Then, in 2019, she surprised everyone. She launched a fashion brand, El Chapo 701, using her husband's infamous name to sell clothing and accessories. Some called it a tribute, others called it a smart way to keep the money flowing. Today, Alejandrina is still free. She has never been arrested, never spent a day in prison. Some say she has left the cartel life behind. Others believe she is just working smarter. Either way, she remains untouchable. Fashion brands and cartel ties? Alejandrina blurred the lines, but the next one is a true financial mastermind behind one of the most dangerous cartels today. Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia. Rosalinda never had to chase power. It was in her blood. She was born into the Valencia family, one of the most important names in Mexico's drug trade. But being part of a cartel family wasn't enough. She went on to marry one of the most dangerous men in the world, Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera Cervantes, the ruthless leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJN. El Mencho became infamous for his violence, but Rosalinda wasn't just his wife. She was his key to control. While he ran the cartel's bloody operations, she managed the money. Billions of dollars from drug sales had to be moved, hidden, and cleaned. Authorities believed she controlled business fronts, laundered money, and handled cartel finances with precision. For years, she lived in luxury, protected by armed guards and the fear her husband's name carried. But in 2018, Mexican authorities finally made a move. Rosalinda was arrested for her role in CJNG's financial network. She didn't break, didn't talk. After a short time, she was released, but she knew the government was watching. In 2021, they came for her again. This time, they were determined to bring her down. But just like before, she didn't give them much. After a year behind bars, she was released in 2022, and she has kept a low profile ever since. Some say she has stepped away from cartel business. Others believe she is still managing everything from the shadows. But one thing is clear, as long as El Mencho is in power, Rosalinda will never truly be out of the game. Money laundering is a family affair in the cartel world, and the next woman didn't just inherit power, she took control of it. Jessica Johanna Oseguera Gonzalez. Better known as La Negra, Jessica was more than just the daughter of a cartel boss. She was also the wife of Julio Alberto Castillo Rodriguez, a powerful figure in the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. Being born into the cartel life was one thing, but marrying into it meant she was truly part of the game. Jessica lived a life of wealth and privilege, while her father, Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera Cervantes, ruled with violence. She handled the business side. She owned companies, restaurants, agricultural firms, and other businesses. To the outside world, they were legitimate, but to the U.S. government, they were money laundering operations. In 2020, everything changed. She flew to Washington, D.C. to support her brother at a court hearing. Maybe she thought she was safe, or maybe she underestimated the U.S. authorities. Either way, the moment she stepped onto American soil, she was arrested. The charges? Running businesses tied to CJNG's massive money laundering network. The government had been watching her for a long time. By 2021, Jessica was sentenced to 30 months in prison. It wasn't a long sentence, but it was a warning. The U.S. wasn't afraid to go after cartel royalty. She was released in 2022, but she didn't disappear. Reports say she still has influence and still holds her father's trust. Some believe she's stepped back, but others whisper that La Negra is still pulling the strings, just from a safer distance. Jessica faced U.S. prison time for her role in cartel business, but the next woman built her, influenced by staying loyal to one of Mexico's most infamous drug lords. Diana Espinosa Aguilar. Diana never imagined that prison would change her life forever. She wasn't supposed to fall in love behind bars, especially not with Rafael Caro Quintero, one of the most dangerous men in Mexico's drug world. But fate had other plans. Before she met him, Diana had her own troubles. She was arrested for drug trafficking and sent to a Mexican prison. That's where she crossed paths with Caro Quintero, the infamous founder of the Guadalajara cartel. He was already a legend, feared, respected, and blamed for the murder of DEA agent Kiki Camarena in 1985. But to Diana, he was something else. He was charming and powerful, and even behind bars, he controlled everything around him. By the time she was released, their bond was unbreakable. She stood by him, and when he walked free in 2013, she was there, waiting. They built a life together, living in the shadows, avoiding attention. But in 2022, the past finally caught up with him. Authorities captured Caro Quintero again, dragging him back into the prison system he once escaped. Since his arrest, Diana has disappeared from public view, but whispers say she still controls his financial empire, moving money and keeping his assets safe. Some believe she's just a loyal wife, waiting for his return. Others say she's much more than that, a woman who knows exactly how to keep a drug kingpin's empire alive. Loyalty is one thing, but surviving cartel warfare is another. The next woman was kidnapped, tortured, and left for dead, yet she's still standing. Clara Elena Laborín. Clara Laborín never wanted to be in the spotlight, but when her world fell apart, she had no choice. For years, she was the wife of Hector Beltran Leyva, the man who ran one of Mexico's most feared cartels. He handled the violence, she handled the money. While he built the cartel's power with blood, she kept the businesses running, making sure the money flowed. Authorities always suspected she was more than just a wife, but they had no proof. Then, in 2014, Hector was arrested. Everything changed. Some expected Clara to disappear, to step aside. Instead, she did the opposite. She kept the cartel's financial empire intact, moving money through businesses and keeping the cartel strong in Sonora and Guerrero. In 2016, her enemies tried to destroy her. A rival cartel kidnapped her, tortured her, and dumped her in the streets as a warning. But instead of breaking, Clara survived. And she didn't just survive, she came back with more power. When Hector died in 2018, people thought it was over. But Clara was still there, still making deals, still controlling the cartel's financial network. She might not be the one ordering executions, but her power is just as deadly. She rarely appears in public now, but make no mistake, Clara Elena Laborín is still in the game, and she isn't stepping down anytime soon. Some cartel wives rise to power through violence, others through silence. The next one has mastered the art of staying hidden, while still controlling major cartel assets. Rosario Niebla Cardoza. Wives of cartel bosses often love attention, and you'd find many of them flaunting their power and wealth. But Rosario Cardoso was different. She never wanted to be seen. She never made a mistake, and because of that, she remained untouchable. She is married to Ismael El Mayo Zambada, the mastermind behind the Sinaloa cartel. While his name was feared across Mexico, Rosario's name was barely mentioned. No headlines, no scandals, no arrests. She understood the dangers of being in the spotlight, so she stayed in the background, working in silence. But silence does not mean innocence. Authorities believe she was one of the key figures behind the cartel's financial empire. Billions of dollars had to be hidden, businesses had to be controlled, and money had to keep moving. She knew where it all went, how it was cleaned, and who could be trusted, but she never left a trace. Her children, however, were not so lucky. Serafin Zambada, one of her sons, was arrested for drug trafficking, exposing the family's deep ties to the cartel. Even then, Rosario remained free, never charged, never questioned. Then, in 2024, everything changed. El Mayo was finally caught. The cartel world braced for chaos, but Rosario did what she always did. She stayed quiet. Some say she is still managing cartel money. Others believe she is disappearing, slipping into the shadows once again. But a woman who knows too much never truly walks away. Mafia queens don't just exist in Mexico. The next woman ran a criminal empire in Italy, proving that organized crime has no borders. Maria Licciardi. The streets of Naples have always been ruled by crime, but few expected a woman to rise to the top. In a world of violent men, Maria Licciardi proved she was just as ruthless, just as smart, and even more dangerous. Maria was married to Antonio Tegemi, but her true loyalty belonged to the Licciardi clan. Her brother had once led the powerful Camorra family, but when he died in 1994, everything changed. Instead of letting the empire collapse, Maria took over. She knew the business inside and out: drug trafficking, extortion, money laundering, and she ran it like a professional. Then, in 2021, it all caught up to her. She was arrested at Rome's Ciampino airport, accused of running human trafficking and drug operations across Europe. The authorities thought they had finally ended her reign, but even in prison, her power hasn't faded. Her clan remains active, her influence unshaken. Some say she still gives orders from behind bars, proving that even without freedom, Maria Licciardi is still in control. From the underworld of Naples to the heart of the Sinaloa cartel, the next woman played a key role in keeping her infamous family's business alive. Griselda Lopez Perez. When the Sinaloa cartel makes headlines, it's usually about men, bosses, assassins, drug lords. But behind the empire, some women still hold power, even if their names aren't spoken as loudly. Griselda Lopez Perez is one of them. She was once married to Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, but her influence didn't end when their marriage did. She is the mother of Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son who became a cartel leader, one of the feared Chapitos. While others were arrested or killed, Griselda remained untouched, operating in the background away from the chaos. Authorities have been watching her for years. The U.S. Department of Treasury sanctioned her, accusing her of laundering money and facilitating drug shipments. They believe she helped move millions of dollars for the cartel, but even with all the accusations, she was never arrested. She stayed invisible, careful, impossible to catch. Then in 2023, Ovidio was captured and extradited to the U.S. His arrest shook the cartel, but it also put more eyes on Griselda. Some thought she would disappear, afraid of being next, but reports say she is still active, still moving money, still protecting the cartel's hidden assets. She never wanted to be seen, but she was always there, pulling strings, keeping the empire from falling. And as long as there's power to hold, Griselda Lopez Perez isn't stepping away. Not all cartel wives stay in the shadows. The next woman embraced her role as a queen pin, earning a nickname that still haunts the drug trade today. Sandra Avila Beltran. The cameras flashed as Sandra Avila Beltran walked free. It was 2015, and after years in prison, La Reina del Pacifico was back. But something was different. Instead of disappearing like most cartel figures, she stepped into the spotlight. She had been one of the most powerful women in the drug trade, married to Juan Diego Espinoza Ramirez, a Colombian trafficker. Together, they strengthened the link between the Sinaloa cartel and Colombia's Norte del Valle cartel, ensuring cocaine flowed smoothly into the U.S. When she was arrested in 2007 and extradited to the U.S., it seemed like the end of her reign. But Sandra knew how to survive. After her release, she reinvented herself. She appeared in interviews, flaunted her wealth on social media, and denied any cartel ties. She may not carry a gun or run a cartel directly, but Sandra Avila Beltran is still powerful, still connected, and still untouchable. A cartel queen never truly steps down. Some women fight for their place in the criminal world, but the next one fought to keep her husband's mafia legacy alive, even after his fall. Victoria Di Giorgio. Victoria never wanted to be a mafia wife. She dreamed of a quiet life, far from crime, far from violence. But fate had other plans. She fell in love with John Gotti, the man who would become the feared and powerful boss of the Gambino crime family. Unlike other mob wives who embraced the life, Victoria resented it. She didn't want her children growing up in a world of secret deals, late-night phone calls, and enemies lurking around every corner. But love is never simple. She stayed with Gotti, even as he built his empire, even as he became one of the most notorious figures in New York's underworld. When Gotti was arrested and later sentenced to life in prison, she never abandoned him. While other wives distanced themselves to protect their families, Victoria stood by him, and after his death in 2002, she became the voice of his legacy. She spoke against the government, calling his prosecution unfair. She defended his name, ensuring that John Gotti would never be forgotten. She has never been involved in crime, but her influence remains. The Gotti name still commands respect and fear, and some say she still has power in certain circles. Some see her as a grieving widow, protecting her family's honor, while others believe she is still connected to the empire her husband left behind. Whatever the truth is, Victoria DiGiorgio will always be part of the Gambino legend. Loyalty is everything in the mafia, but what happens when that loyalty is broken? The next woman's life was shattered when her husband turned against his own people. Deborah Sabetta. Deborah Sabetta once lived at the heart of the Gambino crime family, married to one of its most feared enforcers, Sammy the Bull Gravano. He was the man who helped bring down John Gotti, turning informant and sending shockwaves through the underworld. But while the world focused on Sammy's betrayal, Deborah's life was also falling apart. She had stood by him through the years, through the whispered meetings, the violent secrets, and the unspoken rules of the mafia life. But everything changed when Sammy turned on the Gambino family. Suddenly, they were no longer protected. The family name was tainted and survival meant running. When Sammy entered witness protection, Deborah followed. But this wasn't the life she had signed up for. The man she once knew was now a government witness, and soon after, a criminal all over again. When he returned to drug trafficking, Deborah finally had enough. Their marriage crumbled and she stepped away, but she never truly disappeared. While she avoids the spotlight, her name still lingers in the mafia world, largely because of her daughter, Karen Gravano. Karen's role in the reality show Mob Wives brought new attention to the family's past, forcing Deborah's name back into conversations. She may have left the mafia life, but its shadow never really left her. Some say she is done with that world. Others believe that once you're part of the life, you're never truly out. Mafia betrayal is deadly, but the next woman exposed not only the mob, but the very law enforcement agencies meant to stop it. Linda Shiro. Linda Shiro knew secrets that could get people killed. For years, she was the partner of Gregory Scarpa, the feared hitman of the Colombo crime family. He wasn't just a ruthless enforcer, he was also a secret FBI informant, a man who played both sides while leaving a trail of bodies behind. She stood by him, watching as he pulled the strings of the underworld, eliminating rivals with the same ease that he fed information to the FBI. But loyalty in the mafia only lasts as long as power does. When Scarpa's reign ended with his death in 1994, Linda was left with a choice: stay silent or speak out. More than a decade later, she made her move. In a shocking turn, she testified against FBI agent Lindley DeVecchio, revealing how the government had turned a blind eye to Scarpa's murders because he was too valuable as an informant. Her words exposed the deep corruption between the mafia and law enforcement, shaking the system. But power doesn't go down easily. Her testimony was later discredited in court, leaving her in a dangerous position, a woman who had spoken too much but had nothing left to stand on. Since then, she has vanished from public life, avoiding the media, law enforcement, and the enemies she might have made along the way. Some believe she has truly disappeared. Others whisper that a woman who knows that much never truly fades away. Speaking out against the mafia is dangerous, but taking down an entire cartel? The next woman put her life on the line to do just that. Mia Flores. You'd be interested in hearing this woman's story. You see, Mia knows the cartel never forgives. She may have left the world of drug trafficking behind, but her past still follows her. Even now, in 2025, she and her husband, Pedro Flores, live in the shadows, knowing that their betrayal of El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel has made them permanent targets. She was once part of a life filled with wealth and danger. Her husband and his twin brother, Margarito, ran a billion-dollar cocaine empire, working directly under El Chapo himself. They were trusted, protected, and untouchable. untouchable until they made a decision that changed everything. The twins turned informant, secretly recording cartel meetings and exposing their operation to the DEA. That decision put a price on their heads forever. The government placed them in witness protection, but for people like them, true safety doesn't exist. Mia and her sister-in-law, Olivia Flores, refused to stay silent. They wrote Cartel Wives, a book that revealed the dark truths of their past, but speaking out didn't erase the threat. Even today, cartel members are still searching for them. Reports suggest that Mia is still active in media and advocacy, but her movements are careful and her life is always at risk. Some say she has adapted to living in fear. Others believe she will never truly escape. Mia Flores may have left the cartel world, but she is still running from it. Cartel wives rarely get second chances, but the next one is trying to rewrite her story while still dodging enemies who want her silenced. Olivia Flores. Olivia Flores had everything: a life of wealth, security, and a husband deeply trusted by El Chapo himself. Her home was filled with luxury, and her family was protected by one of the most powerful cartels in the world. But behind the money and power was a truth she always feared. Nobody leaves the cartel alive. Her husband, Margarito Flores, and his twin brother, Pedro, weren't just traffickers. They were at the top, moving billions in cocaine for the Sinaloa cartel. Olivia played her role well, handling cartel finances and ensuring the empire ran smoothly. She knew the business inside and out, but what she didn't know was that everything would change with one decision. When the twins chose to betray El Chapo and become DEA informants, Olivia's world collapsed. The cartel turned on them instantly. The money, the power, the protection, it all disappeared overnight. The government gave them new identities, but no amount of protection could erase the price on their heads. Now, in 2025, Olivia still lives in fear. She and her husband remain hunted, constantly moving, never safe. She has spoken about their life in hiding, revealing the danger they still face. But no matter how far they run, whispers follow them. Some believe they still have hidden cartel millions, a claim they deny. One thing is certain: Olivia Flores knows too much, and the past never truly lets go. Some women turn their backs on the cartel life, but the next one stayed right in the middle of it, managing her husband's empire while he sits behind bars. Adriana Meza Torres. The night Ovidio Guzman Lopez was captured, everything changed. Helicopters roared overhead, gunfire lit up the streets of Culiacan, and the Sinaloa cartel fought desperately to keep El Chapo's son from being taken. But in the end, he was gone, extradited to the United States in 2023, leaving behind a power vacuum. And in the shadows, Adriana Meza Torres remained. She was no ordinary cartel wife. Born into the life, she was the daughter of Raul Meza Ontiveros, a high-ranking cartel figure assassinated in 2007. The blood of traffickers ran through her veins, and she understood the rules of survival better than most. Now, with Ovidio behind bars, people whispered who was left to manage his network. Adriana had always kept a low profile, but silence didn't mean weakness. She knew where the money was, who to trust, and how to keep the cartel's financial empire intact. The cartel still needed someone to secure assets, handle business, and protect what was left behind. Many believe that person is her. She rarely appears in public, but those who know the game say she hasn't disappeared. With her husband locked away, someone has to keep the empire from falling. Maybe she was never meant to lead. Maybe she was just meant to survive. But in the world of the Sinaloa cartel, survival means power, and Adriana Meza Torres is still here. Cartel power isn't always loud. The next woman has remained invisible to most, but her grip on the underworld is still very real. Maria Elvira Murillo. No one really knows where Maria Elvira Murillo is. Unlike other cartel wives who enjoyed the spotlight, she chose to disappear into the shadows. But in the world of drug empires, silence is often more powerful than words. She was the wife of Miguel Ángel Felix Gallardo, the man who built the Guadalajara cartel from nothing and became known as the godfather of the Mexican drug trade. He was ruthless, brilliant, and for a time, untouchable. But in 1989, when he was arrested and sentenced to decades behind bars, everything changed. Most believed his empire would die with his imprisonment, but whispers suggested otherwise. Hidden assets, secret bank accounts, and a financial network that stretched across borders, someone had to control it all. Authorities suspected Maria, though they could never prove it. Even after Gallardo's 2022 transfer to house arrest, the rumors didn't stop. Is she still protecting what's left of his empire? Is she still in control, or has she passed the power to trusted family members? No one can say for sure. What is known is this: the Guadalajara cartel never truly disappeared, and those who once once served the Godfather still operate in the shadows. And Maria Elvira Murillo, the woman who never sought fame, may still be one of the last keepers of his secrets. Because in the cartel world, power never dies. It just moves into quieter hands. Most of these women operate in the background, but the next one, she built an empire of blood and cocaine, earning the title of the most feared female drug lord in history. Griselda Blanco. Death was supposed to be the end of Griselda Blanco, but in the world of crime, legends don't die so easily. She was called the Black Widow for a reason. Her husbands had a habit of ending up dead. She was also known as the Cocaine Godmother, a name she earned by orchestrating hundreds of murders and flooding Miami with cocaine in the 1970s and 1980s. Ruthless, intelligent, and completely unafraid, she built a criminal empire that made even the Medellin cartel take notice. Her reign was bloody, enemies vanished, rivals were gunned down in broad daylight, and even her closest allies feared her wrath. But power comes at a price. She was arrested in 1985, served years in a U.S. prison, and was eventually deported to Colombia. Many thought she had faded into obscurity. Then, in 2012, she was gunned down in Medellin, killed the same way she had ordered so many others to die. But even now, in 2025, her name hasn't disappeared. Her surviving sons still carry her legacy, and one even tried to profit from it, launching a fashion brand in her honor. Some believe her hidden fortune is still out there, controlled by those who remain loyal to her memory. Griselda Blanco may be dead, but her name still carries weight in the criminal underworld. And as long as people speak of power, fear, and violence, the Cocaine Godmother's legend will never die. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.